Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Now in our fifth long season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. I am Richard Woodward and you are tuned into the flagship show, available every week on video and audio for a sometimes irreverent but always informative, if not depressing hour of football conversation. So make your Monday a Blue Monday and welcome back to the show on St David's Day of all days.
Dewi St Hapis.
North Wales,
as we say up
Northwest
here.
Correspondent Seb Brown. Seb, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Are you?
Well, yeah.
Are you sure?
Today's quite a nice day. It's quite nice weather. It's Wales' National Day, so today's fine. Yesterday was crap.
Bodada to our Welsh listeners. Wow. We've got plenty to talk about. Let's start with some sad news. Richie Day, you might have heard of this in the local press if you're down in Suffolk. One of our listeners, one of our subscribers, sadly passed away last weekend from injuries sustained walking home from a night out. Just one of those bad situations, wrong place, wrong time. Richie was a town fan and a listener to the pod. And his younger brother, Chris, season ticket holder with Ben back in the day. They travelled to away games together. Richie, massively popular in town, especially around the live music scene, and obviously beloved and badly missed by his friends and family. So this show is dedicated to Richie and Chris as well, who we're thinking about. And I'm sure everyone listening will share us passing on our condolences to them. So really sad start to the show. But this is dedicated to you, Richie, and to you, Chris. And we're all thinking of you. Let's move on and talk about some news, shall we? The Pillars vote, Seb.
Yep.
Lots of Twitter discussion about the Pillars. These are the 12 pillars in the Sir Ralph Ramsey Stand Concourse. Season ticket holders, some season ticket holders received the votes. We know that democracy always works and brings out a good outcome. But we have a top 12 players from that. And I need to turn off my alerts there. Professionalism is, and that is what we want. I guess no surprises that Johnny Walk tops the poll, or the pillar, whichever you prefer. Matt Holland number 2, Mick Mills number 3, Butcher, Mariner, Beattie, this is in order of the vote, Burley, Crawford, Muren, Tyson, Stewart and Magilton. And I guess my immediate thoughts in that list is that it is rather skewed to the olden days, as I always put it.
The successful days.
The successful days, yeah, which I guess is not a surprise. I don't think there's any names in there that you could dispute. I think probably the reflection that I would have is not only that it's from an era that a lot of newer supporters, and I would even include us, and we are getting on a little bit, won't have been party to, and won't have seen those players in action. And also, I guess, it wasn't kind of a legends vote, it was more kind of an icons or fans favourite. I just think it's a little bit sad that there's no one from kind of Ipswich or the Suffolk or East Anglian area in there. I think Butcher is the only one who has links to the county, but he was born in Singapore. So your reflections on those? No David Johnson, which I'm sure you're gutted about.
I can only assume he finished at number 13. All the confusion with the 1970s one probably skewed the poll. Like you say, it's just a reflection of our fan base being, the success we had in the 70s and 80s, the overachievements, I guess you could say, is reflected in that poll. Mine was pretty similar. I think I did the ones I felt should be in there, so your BTs, your Mills, your Mariners, but I also had, Tarika was on my list, as was Mickey Stockwell. It would have been nice to see maybe not someone you automatically think of as an icon or a legend, but somebody who's delivered. Mickey Stockwell played for us for God knows how many years, and a great servant for the club and from the area. So I'd have liked to see somebody like that in the list. But I guess overall, with those kind of names linking to the successful times, you can't really argue with it.
No, exactly right. And I think, as always, as football fans and as people on social media, we'll always find something to critique and discuss. But that's the whole point of Twitter, isn't it? So I don't know when that's going to happen, but certainly the club.
Well, the roof was meant to be cleaned 9 months ago, and that's still not been done. So I'd assume we'll probably see these pillars around about 2030.
Brilliant. We can do another vote then and have the same players from the 70s and 80s in there, can't we? And again, a comment, as we always generally do, that at least the club is starting to show a little bit of kind of intent to make the stadium a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do as well.
It's
a decent thing to do. They've had a bit of stick on Twitter, but I think it's a nice thing to do. It's got a bit of fan engagement. If they just painted the things blue or something, it would have been the easy option. But to put a vote out to the fans is showing they're trying in some ways to maybe reconnect a little bit with the community. And I think it's a nice thing the club's done.
Yep. A few bits and pieces here from Lambert, who spoke to the press at the end of last week, I won't ask you to deconstruct his "we're never going to give up and not until it's mathematically impossible" statement. If he was Man City boss, I'm sure Man City could still win the title this season, despite Liverpool having a 25-point gap, is it, or 21?
No, they lost.
Did they lose?
Yeah, they lost. Excellent.
But contract situation, this is an interesting one. Town took up their one-year option on left-back Bailey Clements, which I think, given some of the stuff that we'll talk on about Blackpool, that doesn't surprise me. And Brett McGavin, I think we're expecting to follow shortly after.
Yeah.
But we've got Cole Scouse, Andre Dizelle, Will Keane, Guion Edwards, Danny Rowe, Jordan Roberts and Armando Dobra, all out of contract in the summer. All apparently have a 1-year extension clause that can be triggered, but we are not going to trigger that. Now we are going to wait until the end of the season and see where we are. Your thoughts on some of those names, decisions being delayed, and generally whether the strategy makes sense?
Well, I guess it does for a couple of them. I'm assuming, Jordan Roberts, let's be realistic, he's going to be released. So I don't really understand why they just don't come out and say stuff like that. Danny Rowe and Guion Edwards are our only real wide options in the squad. So I guess you'd be loath to release the only two players we have capable of playing with any kind of width. Scouse makes sense to wait a little bit. Keane's done okay recently. I wouldn't mind him getting a new deal. But the two really concerning ones, obviously, are Andre Dizelle and Armando Dobra. They're both assets to the club. We had the bid turned down from Brighton in January for Dobra. And when he came on yesterday, he really looked a handful. So all it will take is we trigger the extension, we make him an offer. Brighton, let's say, come back in the summer and get in his ear straight away. Then his agent is going to be on at him saying, "Are you sure you want to sign with Ipswich? You could walk away on a free, and they'll get a minimal compensation fee at a tribunal." So I don't understand why we don't get the younger ones tied down and sorted out pretty quickly, because our business model should be protect the young assets, build them up, develop them, sell them, and reinvest it. If we're just going to let these guys go for a pittance because the ball's in their court with regards to walking away in 12 months' time, it's a really worrying sign.
Yeah, I guess the thing about some of these players, Cole Scouse, I'm looking at, mate, Danny Rowe, Jordan Roberts, is there, depending on where we finish, is there a option here to use this as a tool to revamp the squad and reboot a little bit? A lot of people, clear out. I didn't want to use that word, but go on then, use that. Yeah,
I mean, Scouse and Chambers are always going to be linked to the Mick era. So I guess it comes down to, does Lambert want to completely, if it's going to be Lambert who's in charge, does he want to completely clear the decks when he can and get his own people in and build an own team and his own identity? If you're going to do that, then you have to release Scouse. There was talk, wasn't there, about a player coach kind of option. He's been doing stuff with the under 18s. He's been coaching
the under 18s and 23s, I think.
But again, if Lambert doesn't want the likes of him and Chambers at the club, then he's got no choice other than to release him. And to be fair, we are pretty well stocked in central midfield, aren't we? If he were to go, it wouldn't exactly be. We wouldn't be short on numbers still. Yeah,
and Andre Dizelle, we've talked plenty about Andre Dizelle on the pod. That situation is definitely troublesome. But I think the key message is let's not let contracts run out and rely on tribunals to set fees, because we will not get market value from a tribunal, particularly when it's a championship club that is looking to take advantage, because conspiracy theories abound about EFL and FPP and EPPP and...
But this isn't new, is it? Let's be honest. I mean, Grant, Macaulay, Ledbetter, David Norris, we've never been great at contracts and never been great at protecting our assets, so it's just the latest round in a series of mismanagement and bad decisions.
Step up Lee O'Neill. Let's end the news with this story, which... Graydon Dorr has admitted about lying about his age when he was a player. His quote was, "What is certain is that in Senegal, 99% of players have reduced their age." And I think this is to allow them to be a pro in Europe and move to Europe to be a pro. I'm not going to ask you a kind of a political question there or anything like that, but I will ask you if you ever lied about your age in the past to take advantage of the situation.
I'm fairly sure we've both been in McGinty's or the Arboretum in the late 90s, and yes sir, I'm definitely 18.
What? Yeah. No, certainly not. I've not been kicked out of McGinty's ever in my life. Let's move on. Let's talk about Blackpool. Let's talk about Blackpool, which I put on the Blue Monday WhatsApp chat in the nicest possible ways, like Felix Doe on acid or something.
Wow.
It's
It was the good people of the Wirral last time, and now you're slagging off a northern institution in Blackpool. Find him on Twitter at Ipswich.
Hello to all the people in Blackpool listening to the Blue Monday pod, which there are all those out there. That was a compliment as well. You know,
Was it?
Felixstowe is
On crack?
is great, but as in it's big. There's lots of amusements. Right. There's lots of.
I've never known the term "on crack" be a compliment.
It's just big and different and crazy.
Okay.
That's
on crack.
Don't do drugs, kids. Blackpool, let's talk about kind of the situation going into this match, which is not great for either side, albeit Blackpool, who are without a manager, David Dunn in temporary charge, had a poor run. They were 14th going into this game, 8 wins at home, 2 draws, 5 defeats, but that has the mid-table and the home form table. The key for them, a home win over Bolton in midweek. But previously, their only win in 2020 had been against Southend. 7 points from 8 games in 2020 so far, and along come Ipswich.
You just know, yeah.
and Simon Grayson had lost his job at the start of the month as well. It's also worth adding here, Blackpool 6 games without a win against ITFC. We were down to 9th after the midweek run of games as other teams caught up. And there was a situation where I think we were 4 or 5 points off the playoffs, but Sunderland equalised in the last minute against Fleetwood, which means we only had a 3-point gap going into this. Good news, I guess, for Town. Armand Nandouye, their leading scorer. I'm not going to say that again. I'm pretty happy with that. And Sully Kaikai, both injured. So let's talk about these teams, Seb. We expected maybe a shift of personnel due to suspensions, due to injury, particularly our strikers. And it's a 4-3-3 formation that Ipswich go with, or a 4-1-4-1 out of possession. Holy in goal. Garbutt, Earl, Chambers, Wolfenden is your back four, with Wolfie out on the right. Scouse, Downs and Hughes make up the midfield three. And it's Sears, Keane and Bishop, the front three. Your thoughts on that?
Well, when the team came out, nobody really knew. We were in the pub with Mullet and Senior. We didn't have a clue what the formation was. The Blue Monday WhatsApp group didn't seem to have a clue what the formation was. I assumed when I saw it, given the personnel, that it would have been a 4-4-2 diamond with Scouse at the base, Downs and Hughes either side, and Bishop at the tip with Sears and Keane up front. I wasn't really expecting a 4-3-3, given that Bishop is not a natural winger or an inside forward. He does his best work in the centre of the park when he's head down, running at people, breaking the lines. But as soon as they kicked off, it was quite obvious it was a 4-3-3, and you just wanted to hope that Sears and Bishop really supported Keane, because as we've seen in the past, when Keane is isolated, he's not at his best. So you were slightly concerned about the support for him in that lone striker role.
Yeah, and Bishop has played out wide, I think, before we'd.
Did he do it at Exeter in the EFL? I think he did it on his comeback again in the Exeter game in the EFL Trophy Cup thing. But we all know Bishop was either he was in 14-15. He was a central midfielder, wasn't he? An attacking central midfielder, or you want to see him in the number 10 role like he was when he came on Tranmere away and really start to influence the game. So. I didn't really think it worked as a wide right option.
No, well, Bishop doesn't get a huge amount of mention. We'll talk about the key match action in a second. And both Sears and Bishop, I think, Sears on the left, Bishop on the right, is with the intention to cut in, I think.
Yeah.
And Sears was certainly more successful at doing that. Just quickly on the bench, a lot of people hoping that Ben Morris would appear, though I think he's still coming back from injury. But I guess big news is that Tyree Simpson is on the bench for a league game. I don't know whether he's featured on the bench before, perhaps maybe in the days of rotation back in November, December, but certainly appeared in the EFL Trophy. And he is effectively the backup striker option there. Dobra, also a lesser spotted, Armando Dobra.
Good.
Also makes an appearance. But let's talk about Blackpool. It's a 3-5-2 formation for them. Maxwell in goal, a back three of Husband, Moore and Turton. A midfield 5 it is of McDonald, Dewsbury Hall, who we were warned about in the pub pre-match with Mullet and Mullet Senior, that he was a decent player on loan from Leicester and is actually, in absence of those two strikers that I've mentioned before for Blackpool, is their leading scorer. Patrick Ronan, Matthew Virtue Thick. There are some names here. And Liam Feeney. You can still find Liam Feeney. More on him later on as well. And on the bench for Blackpool, Grant Ward is on the bench. Well done to him getting back to injury. But we didn't see him yesterday. Medine and Delfonso up front. I nearly forgot the strikers. This layout of my notes is just not working today. Let's get into the action, shall we? It was a weird start. 2 minutes. We've had 3 Blackpool corners in quick succession. All of them not particularly well defended. Holy flaps at a couple. Yeah. Eventually he gathers one. But there are no real clear-cut chances until around 15 minutes onwards. There's 11 minutes, Wolfenden gets Sears in. He pings across that Hughes can't get on the end of, kind of Gaza Euro 96 style. But 22, this is a good shot, a good chance here. Downs is in. He has bodies left and right of him. He cuts forward. Blackpool are all over the place. He plays in Keane rather than Sears, and Keane, who does well to find himself a shooting position, actually ends up pulling the shot well wide here. But that is the only action I have until the 27th minute, Seb. And let's talk about the catalogue of errors that precede this goal. Garbutt is involved here. Hughes and Downs are involved in here. Tell us about this, Seb, and try not to smash the laptop in describing it, please.
It's just a cluster bomb of errors.
Well played. Well done.
I'm sure we've all seen the Lambert post-match comments where he's blaming Garbutt for this. So Garbutt tries this flick, bizarrely, just outside the area. He tries a flick to try and get it to, I guess it's Sears, slightly ahead of him, and it goes completely wrong. We then manage to clear the ball. The Blackpool player gets in, puts the cross in. Wolfenden does well. He attacks the ball and clears it, and it falls to Hughes. Hughes starts to make a run with it out of the box, and I've watched it a few times. I can't work out who is at fault. Either Hughes should take responsibility and just absolutely thwack it down the pitch, or Downs should scream at him as he's running onto it, and he should do likewise. Downs seems to almost tackle Hughes. He puts his foot out. I don't know if Hughes leaves it. I don't know if Downs gives him a shout. But between the two of them, they really, really mess it up. Dewsbury Hall takes control of the ball, cuts in on his left foot, and it's a decent finish in off the post. Holy goes down quite late to react to it. But it's a goal completely of our making. Garbutt should never try the flick. One of Hughes or Downs should clear the ball. And as soon as the goal went in, I think it's Wolfenden especially gives Garbutt absolute pelters. So I think it's quite clear where the blame lies. But just a series of comical mistakes. And we'd been doing all right up until that point. From about the 10th minute or so until this point, we had a couple of chances, a couple of half chances, decent possession, and then sure enough, we just gift the opposition a goal, and it was so avoidable.
Yeah, there's 2 peak Ipswich goals in this match, isn't there? Spoiler alert, Dewsbury Hall takes the shot quite well. It's a nice curling shot.
And like you said, the guy in the pub had told us he's on loan from, is it Wolves or Leicester?
Leicester, I think, yeah.
The guy in the pub had said he was their bright spark, he was their threat. So if the chap in the pub can tell us that, you would like to think that the defenders will be switched on when he's around the ball just to clear your lines, but apparently not.
What do us supporters know, eh? And to be fair, that's all Blackpool have really got to talk about from the first half.
They didn't threaten, did they?
Medine and Chambers kind of had a bit of back and forth with each other, which was quite interesting. Delfonso really didn't get on the ball. He's one who flatters to deceive in a big way. But let's talk about these few chances that Ipswich have before the end of the first half. Keane and Downs actually combining quite well throughout this game, actually. We'll talk about Downs in a second, about his yellow card. But Downs is played in by Keane, 37 minutes this is. Keane plays in Downs, who's kind of the left-hand side of the penalty area. He hits a firm shot back across goal. Yep. Maxwell saves it, but spills it into the path of Sears, who's bundled over by McDonald. I think in any other league, any other team, is this a penalty?
Fairly blatant, yeah. Downs does well. Downs seemed to be the one who was breaking from midfield to support the strikers. Hughes and Scouse were sitting deeper, and Downs was the one that was given the licence to really, really get upfield and help support the front three. So he does well. It's on his left foot. He hits it back across goal. I guess you could say, could he get more power on the shot? But it's a half-decent save by the keeper. Sears is then running in, and you expect just to tap in. On the replays, and at the time, it looks like a clear push by the Blackpool player. And then, the referee doesn't give it, so you think, right, okay, at least it's a corner. And then, bizarrely, he gives a goal kick. I can't see how the penalty wasn't given, and then certainly how the corner wasn't given. But we've sat here before talking about the standard of refereeing in this league. So I guess at this stage, early March, we shouldn't be that surprised, should we really?
No, and also we think it's a corner. That's not given either. So
bizarre.
Perfect moment there from the officials.
And the players start going crazy as well, don't they? Chambers and Scouse lead the remonstrations to the ref, and it was just a really bad decision.
Couple of long ranges before half time. Sears combining with Garber, who flicks it over to Downs, who hits a shot narrowly wide, only a few inches wide of the post, that one. And Hughes also has quite a firm volley, kind of from a key knockdown, but he's straight at Maxwell, either side of the keeper, and that's a good opportunity. But Ipswich go in at half time behind, probably moderately the better team on the balance of it and on chances created. But this mental capacity to throw things away, but also more concerning, I guess, at half-time was our record of turning around, losing positions. How concerned were you at half-time, Seb?
Well, I think we both discussed it. Once the goal went in, I mean, it's hard to be positive when you go to as many away games as we do. But I think we both sort of said that's game over because we couldn't see ourselves getting back into it. The other concern I had was that at half-time, the weather was okay in the first half, so I was worried that was our good half. As we know, we don't do solid 90-minute performances, so I was worried that was our good half, and the weather changed, the wind started coming in, the rain started coming in. I had a horrible feeling the second half was going to be a complete washout.
Yeah, well, we'll talk more about the gathering storm, a metaphor, if you will, Storm Jorge. But let's get into the second half, because there's not a huge amount to talk about until the 55th minute, when the aforementioned Delfonso is mucking around trying to be clever just inside the town half. He mucks it up, Earl gets a foot in, Wolfenden launches it loops up in the air, and Keanes and Downs are combining again.
So Downs does really well because the deflection off, I'm not sure it takes a deflection off, it actually falls to the Blackpool defender, but Downs puts his foot in and he enables the ball to run to Keane. Keane does really well, he runs to the byline, the Blackpool defender goes to ground, Keane very calmly dinks it over him, and Sears running in, exactly what you want from your inside forward. In a 4-3-3, that's what you want from your wide option, an inside forward making a late run into the box. It's a neat side-footed right foot finish, and I think we were all delighted for Sears. He's had a horrible time. I think in his post-match he said his operation was a year ago to the day, or a year ago to the day before.
So Villa goal.
So it's a really, really good moment for Sears. I was only surprised by the celebration. It was really, really muted. Sears sort of did a bit of a fist pump towards the, a clenched fist towards the support, but nobody else really went for it. It reminded me of the Garbett at Lincoln goal, where again they just didn't really celebrate it. So I guess we'll come on to conspiracy theories and are they really motivated and played, etc. But I was surprised by that. But it was good for us to score relatively early in the second half, and then you like to sort of think, right, here we go, let's see what they're made of.
Yeah, I think Mullet will be screaming wherever he's listening to this if we don't mention how well Keane did
really well
with the assist. He pauses the cross just before the defender commits, and then takes it around him and crosses it back.
Keane was good all game, to be fair. We didn't really. There was a sort of a 10-minute period in the first half where Wolfenden especially was going long to hit him in the air, but they stopped that. And when you're in a 4-3-3, when you've got your focal player, your focal point, when you play it to Keane's feet, he's really good in that role. He was really good at dropping deep and bringing others into play, and he had a good game, and he really deserved that good assist.
I think that is definitely worth a point for us at Shrewsbury after that. There you go, Mullet. 57 odd minutes, there's Ipswich win a free kick. Flynn Downs reacts to the foul.
Yeah.
He pushes his man. The foul appears to be overturned.
Yeah.
Downs is booked and now has a 2-match ban. And Downs is then a couple of minutes substituted. Downs has been in the last few months the standout player, hasn't he?
Undoubtedly.
This situation again, I want an opinion on the officials. I don't know whether we need Ben really about the rules of the game, but I'm pretty certain, unless there's unsporting behaviour, you can overturn a decision. But it seems weird that we had the free kick. Downs reacts, which is petulant. Yes, it's still a foul. The situation's rubbish. And then Downs gets accosted by a home supporter on his way out when he gets substituted as well in the tunnel, doesn't he? It's all a bit of a silly 5 minutes, that, isn't it?
Yeah, so he wasn't booked for the shove, was he? He was booked for dissent.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So the yellow card was for dissent, not for the push on the Blackpool player. So is there something in the laws of the game where he's allowed to overrule the foul if dissent is... I don't know.
We're making them up now, aren't we?
Yeah. Straight. It was bizarre, though, because the ref did give the free kick to us and then randomly just changes his mind. Downs gets hooked pretty shortly afterwards. He went straight down the tunnel. Lambert put his arm around him. I guess he said to him, look, I'm worried you might get sent off because they're going to target you now. He goes straight down the tunnel. And then, bizarrely, it must be the director's box at Blackpool, right over the tunnel. Some guy just leans over and is giving Downs absolute pelters. Downs stops and looks back at him. And they were there for a good sort of 30 seconds just having a go at each other. Stewards are there and stuff telling the guy to sit down. I think Simpson on the town bench sort of stands up and tells the guy to sit down as well. So it was really weird because it was a nothing sort of, he shoved him in the chest, but it wasn't particularly aggressive or dangerous or anything. It was just a coming together and a bit of handbag. So I don't really know why he got that stick walking off.
It doesn't really affect Ipswich too much, does it? Again, Blackpool kind of break forward a little bit between kind of 70 and 80 minutes, but it's still Town who I think are the better side just about, but it's still the cutting edge that's the problem. We've got a double change here. Downs is subbed, as we mentioned. It's Judge who comes onto him for him. Bishop, who looked like he was running out of steam, wasn't really able to contribute, as you said, in his kind of right-wing position. It's Dobra who comes on for him. And we think maybe a little bit of a formation change.
It looked like he went to a 4-2-3-1. Yeah, Dobra sort of took up Bishop's position on the right-hand side. And Judge went into the number 10, just leaving Skuse and Hughes in central midfield. But it definitely looked like a formation change. But then Judge was popping up all over the place. I guess in that number 10 role, he's got that bit of freedom to roam around the pitch.
Let's talk about a few more chances before the inevitable happens. Garber and Keane combining at the near post. Keane kind of gets a shot away, but it's at the near post. It's never likely to go in. It's kind of 75 minutes onwards. Thomas Hulley decides that he's had enough of hanging around.
Yeah, it was weird,
decides to come out for every ball that bounces inside Town's half.
Especially with the wind, how it was, the conditions. There were a couple of times, I mean, he's not quick. He's a big guy and he's not quick. And there were a couple of times you started to think, hang on, what's he doing here? But to be fair, every single one he just about got away with.
He got the taste for it at Sunderland away. Big chance here for Blackpool, though. I said they hadn't really contributed a huge amount in the second half, but this is a big chance. Dewsbury Hall with the corner. Maydeen has 2 goes at the header. First one hits the bar. The rebound goes straight to Holly, and Delfonso's lurking.
Yeah, Chambers
but
just
can't
loses.
get anything on it. But everyone flat-footed, aren't they? There's zonal marking from set pieces. I really hate it.
Yeah, same.
And we nearly got caught out there. A minute later, Judge hits wide. It's good work from Dobra here, but Judge gets his firm shot wide. 83, Holy's out again, and Chambers is the one who bails him out. Let's not talk about that anymore. 84th minute, though. This is Keane had a good game. Talked about this, and probably needs to be fresh for Tuesday. And next Saturday as well. But Tyree Simpson here really gave, I think, Lambert something to think about for Tuesday. Really good cameo for the next kind of 5-7 minutes. He's big, physical, strong,
powerful,
quick.
But he's quick as well. We watched him in the warm up, didn't we? And he's taking left-footed shots, and he was finishing really, really clinically.
Yeah.
A few of the guys are putting them wide in the warm-up, but he was clinical every single time. And you assume being a big sort of lump, that's doing him a disservice, because when he came on, there were a couple of times when he really, really ran at the Blackpool players, and he's got a decent bit of pace about him.
Yeah, I think definitely a presence there. But Seb, as the storm clouds gathered around Bloomfield Road, the rain begins to lash down. We have a sight of goal, Seb. Judge into Sears. Seb, he is through almost one-on-one. He has 2 defenders for company, but he is ahead of them. What should he do here instead of maybe nudging the ball weakly to the keeper's side?
Just hit the ball. I mean, Matthew said after the game, didn't he? Alex Matthew was doing the co-commentary on Suffolk, and he said, just hit it there. I guess in Sears' defence, he is absolutely goosed from about 70 minutes onwards, I would say. He looked knackered.
Yeah, and he admitted as much in the post-match.
Yeah, fair enough. It's his first 90 minutes, I think, back after the injury. He's not played much under 23s football at all, so he is absolutely goosed. If that falls to him in the 20th minute, maybe that extra bit of pace might have made a difference, but he should just hit it. He tries to take it round Maxwell, who gets a decent hand on it, and we also went, there it is, there's the chance that we're going to regret that. A point here isn't it really enough for today. That's the turning moment, but let's look ahead to Fleetwood and Coventry. And then I blame you because you said here it comes as the guy kicked the ball. That's a direct quote. Here it comes as the Blackpool player kicked the ball downfield, and then again it's more of a comedy of errors, isn't it? Garbett sticks his leg out. He should attack the ball. He lets it bounce, sticks his leg out, misses it completely. It's Feeney, isn't it, who runs down the wing. Earl, I guess again you should say Earl should be stronger. Could he cut the cross out? Could he be tighter to the player on the overlap? I guess so, but he's not. Feeney plays a really, really good ball in. To be fair, it's a very good cross. and then Nuttall is there in the 92nd,
93rd minute,
93rd minute. Holy, it's too close in, no chance. Chambers is ball watching. Scouse is there as well, but can't do anything about it. And Blackpool go crazy. There's a mini pitch invasion down that end of the pitch. We're just sitting there. We've gone from, in the space of 40 seconds, you've gone from, potentially 3 points to set you up nicely for the 2 home games in the week and to hopefully make the charge for the playoffs. We've missed that one, and then unbelievably we've managed to lose the game. A point yesterday would have been, you wouldn't have been happy with a point based on the possession and the stats and the chances. So to lose it was farcical, and again, it's a goal of our own making because we're not.
Yeah, Lambert in his post-match talks a lot about the first goal and the mistakes made, but again, I don't want to throw Garbutt under the bus.
Garbutt was poor yesterday. We can say it. Garbutt was poor. Set pieces were poor. There were times yesterday when I didn't think a left footer was the best option for some of the positions of the free kicks, but Garbutt just gets on every single one. I guess you could say who else could take it on the pitch who's right-footed, but Bishop maybe. I don't know, but he was poor in the first goal with the flick. Poor on the second goal when he lets it bounce and just sticks a leg out. He's got to be brave and attack that ball, and then we don't stop the cross. And it's
how often have we talked about stopping the cross?
Yeah.
Like even the Mick era.
But it's a really good cross from Feeney.
It's a lovely cross.
He never did that when he was playing for us.
And we've not mentioned his name in the build up to anything else previously.
No, one moment of quality and they win it.
Yeah, and the full time whistle sounds and a weird kind of post-match or post-whistle response, really, wasn't
we were
it?
in shock, I think, still, weren't we, a little bit? So the players come over. We had a corner, Holy goes up, nothing comes of it. It's then full-time. Chambers comes over. He didn't really get pelters. He got a round of applause. Sears, Scouse, they all come over. They don't come as close as they normally do. They never do after a defeat, do they? And then Lambert comes over and, he shakes the hand of all the players as they walk off. He's left on his own. He starts applauding us, and then the tide sort of turned. There was abuse shouted at him. There were a few gestures made towards him, and it was going on during the game as well. Actually, wasn't it? After Blackpool scored, there was a chant of 5 more years. You're having a laugh, and there was a chant of Lambert sort it out. So it's starting to teeter over, and I'm just worried these 2 home games. If we lose both of them, it could turn nasty pretty quickly.
Yeah, let me talk you through some stats here, because before we do the questions are of a particular tone, as you'd expect after a defeat, quite rightly. But for me, this is a defeat that needs context, because the context behind the defeat here is Ipswich were dominant, 57% possession, 15 shots, 7 on target. Blackpool had 7, 4 on target. Big chances for Ipswich, 4. Blackpool 3. Ipswich dribbles 12, completed, 19 attempted. Blackpool achieved 1, attempted 5. The XG of 2.5, I think it was, for Ipswich Town. Blackpool 1.5, I think it was. I think the problem we get now is these positive performances, or these semi-positive performances that also end in defeat.
Yield no points,
They kind of patience runs out, don't they? And rightly, questions are now starting to be asked, aren't they, Seb?
But it's the same old story, isn't it? I mean, we've been saying it for months now. If you don't take your chances, you ain't going to win football games. It's that straightforward. Again, we've probably had 3 or 4 decent, clear-cut opportunities that we should be burying, and the game should be out of sight. So it's nothing new. It's just this mental thing, this mental block. Be it the players or the managers or whatever, they are. Once we concede a goal, our heads go down, and we just contrive to throw things away.
And your conspiracy theory around the celebration, or the conspiracy theory that we've maybe we haven't concocted, but you could maybe rightly call from looking at the match footage. Is there something to be said for players not being 100% for Lambert?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, we heard whispers they weren't happy with the rotation policy, and that sort of culminated with the lock-in meeting after the Lincoln game. But the celebration just seemed really, really strange. It was very muted. You would think, we've equalised, let's really build and go on from here. But no one seemed that bothered. And I guess if you're in a situation where the manager hasn't got if he has lost the dressing room and they're not playing for him, then there's no way this will ever turn around.
We'll talk about management in a sec. I've kind of got a mini informal play your stats right. I just want to get for some added context. Because
is it worst win percentage of ITFC managers or something?
No, because I think we've done that before. Haven't we? Let's do some questions. Let's start with one from Craig, which is a useful kind of segue for what comes up next. Without both of our leading scorers and now our best player who is suspended for the next 2 matches, how do you foresee that playing out? Because It's Fleetwood and Coventry, two of the high form teams in the league.
I mean, knowing us, we'll probably beat them both. We'll probably beat them both to keep this death by 1,000 cuts going a little bit longer. No, I think we might well get a point against Fleetwood, and it might build a bit of encouragement going into the Coventry game, but I cannot see us beating Coventry. And part of me, I just kind of hope we'll put out of our misery relatively soon. If it keeps going, if we get 4 points from these 2 games, then we're going to hear all the same sound bites. Chambers is going to come out and say, we win our home games, we can do this, and Lambert's going to say it's all still to play for. So part of me does kind of wish just put us out of our misery.
Phil Y. Hi, Phil. 4 league wins in 19. I'll trust his stats. I haven't double-checked those. He's a trustworthy man, is Phil. In the third tier of the English leagues isn't good enough for us. We need the club to let us know if it's all part of the real rebuilding plan or not. Perhaps we need to finally painfully admit we found our level, and that level is mid-table League One. Leo Neal's talked about a 5-year plan. Marcus Evans has talked about a 5-year plan. Leo Neal has said previously to Christmas that... or just after Christmas, wasn't it, for Lincoln, I think, that if we don't get promoted, it's not the end of the world. Do you think the club needs to say, it doesn't now matter, we'll see how many points we can achieve, but now is the time to start blooding the likes of Dobra, Simpson, to be playing Bishop, to be playing Dizelle, and we just... Or
again, it comes back to...
Or is there no plan, Seb? Are we just making it up on the hoof?
There's clearly no plan. If they came out and said... If we're not going to go up, we will spend the next season developing players, developing a pattern of play and a strategy like the bigger clubs that have been in this league before have done. Then I think most of us would be okay. I think realistically, if we gate crash 6th and somehow manage to beat a top 6 side and go up, I think we'll all know we'll come straight back down.
Yes,
but that's got to be the consensus. Evans isn't going to invest in the squad, so we are going to come straight back down. So there is an argument: is it better to stay down for 1 more year or 2 more years and properly build something? Build a pattern of play, an identity. I'm assuming that's the basis behind Lambert's 5-year contract, so he can really stamp his authority on the team and use a few windows to maybe get people in and shift people out and see a cultural change maybe from some of the Mick leftover sort of era players. But I'm just worried that we'll just stay down. We'll still be making these rotational decisions. We won't develop the youngsters, and we will just drift like in the Championship. We'll just drift into nothing, and League One will become the norm.
Yeah, I've got a question here that kind of supplements that. Hopefully I get this right in the pronunciation. Sorry if I haven't. Jarle Sonninen, or I think Jarle Sonninen. Should we accept that we won't reach the playoffs? Sack Lambert, bring Klug back in, flood the youngsters into the team, I think he means, and try to find a manager who has a philosophy and is prepared to work on a really tight budget. We haven't really figured out whether Lambert seems to be okay with the tight budget, although he moans about it every window. Dave Gore, just to supplement this on Lambert as well, in your day jobs, if your equivalent results are as bad as Paul Lambert's, and a lot of people talk about this, football is a little bit special. We can't compare 9 to 5 with being a football manager, but nevertheless, in our equivalent, if our results as equivalents to Lambert for the last 18 months in charge, would we expect to keep our jobs?
No.
Is that it? No?
No. What was the first part of the question was about the...
Well, about if we don't get to the playoffs...
Somebody with a philosophy, yeah.
Yeah, get rid of Lambert, bring in Klug.
I mean, poor Klug. I don't think Klug actually enjoys being in charge, does he? I think he probably dreads getting the phone call from Marcus during a bad run of form, because he probably thinks, oh God, I've got to look after the team again. I mean, there are managers out there who are available who have a very set philosophy. Somebody like Nathan Jones is a high energy, a high press, 4-4-2 diamond man. Warnock is a long ball.
Hold that thought.
Right, okay, yeah. There are managers out there who have philosophy who you could move for straight away, but I'll be honest, I fully expect Lambert to still be here next season. I can't see Evans sacking him.
Is there a point of no return though? Mullet's question here is...
We've reached it, surely.
Well, Mullet's question is, and we've mentioned it, these players look like no longer playing for the manager. Is it time for conspiracy theories? We talked about this. Is there something to be said for the players that we need to get us out of this situation, who are largely the more senior players?
The Mick players. Are
they giving 100% or are we getting 90%, Seb? And a new manager, whilst it gives the players a short-term boost to kick up the arse, is that what we need at this point? Well, or should we be going for the longer-term manager who has got a philosophy?
Well, if you have a plan, you go for the longer-term manager and you develop a pattern of play and a real strategy. I guess, we are now fast approaching the end of the leftover Mick players. So your Chambers, your Scouse, your Sears, they can't be long for this world as Ipswich Town players. I guess if Lambert really wants to stamp his authority on the squad, then he will look to move them on. And I guess they should be the ones the younger lads in the dressing room are turning to for guidance, but they're just not doing it. At the moment, Downs is the only player I would say who is trying to drag this side up the table, and he's one of the youngest.
Yeah, maybe Keane in that as well. Paul Westlake's looking to try and find the positive, just as I am as well. He says, by far the better side, should have had 3 or 4. Dobra was excellent, as was Simpson. Time to stick with them to prep for next season. Again, a similar theme there.
Yeah, I'd like to see Dobra. I mean, when he came on, he was good. He's very positive. He runs at people. And also there was one bit where he lost the ball and he ran pretty much half the length of the field, didn't he, to win it back. So he's clearly up for the challenge. I'd like to see him get a run in the side, maybe not in a wide position. Maybe he's better in the number 10 role. Simpson, again, they were the 2 positives from yesterday, but it's a big ask to throw these 2 18-year-old lads into the pressure cooker of a side trying to get cash promotion. I don't think it's really fair on them to expect them to single-handedly get us across the line. Yeah, 2 questions I'm going to mix in together here. ITFC Mark, he talks a lot about the rotation, but how we've gone from first to ninth and all the stuff that were positive at the start about flying up the wind, dangerous runs, decent set pieces. It's the manager, right? Not Evans. The squad should be good enough, he says. Yeah. We've debated whether that's the case or not. What's happened? Big mess. He thinks Lambert's to blame. And then FPL Tractor, love the show. Always say love the show. You'll always get your question read out by me. Given we live in a blame culture, do you blame relegation last year? He blames Evans, but this year's fast. More on that. The players, Lambert, or who? For me, this is all on Lambert. You can blame Evans absolutely for not being competitive in the Championship, but I don't think you can hold him accountable for not being competitive in League One. This squad should be easily enough to go up comfortably, as we proved in the first 15, 20 odd games of the season. For me, Lambert's just got this horribly wrong with the chopping and changing of personnel, the bizarre formations, playing people out of position, and for me, this whole season is on him.
And Scott Moore says, despite the new deal he was given, does Lambert get sacked if Ipswich don't make the playoffs? Probably at any other team.
Yeah,
right?
I can't think of another instance where a side wins 4 out of 23 games? I can't think of another instance where a side is on that kind of run of form and doesn't sack the manager. I mean, Grayson didn't have those kind of stats, and he got sacked by Blackpool. So I guess it all comes down to the 5-year contract, doesn't it? There must be break clauses in there. Maybe it has to be that we can't mathematically go up, or if we finish outside the playoffs at the end of the season,
there may be a mutual consent clause or something.
I mean, with Magilton, he waited till it was mathematically impossible, didn't he, to go up? I think, and then he swung the axe. So maybe it's a similar kind of thing, and he wants to avoid paying compensation, but by then it might be too late because some of the potential managerial targets might have moved on elsewhere.
A lot of questions about Lambert and Evans. Apologies for not reading all of them. They're of a similar nature. I'll try and find some different stuff. We've had a question from Jules, or an opinion from Jules, about the errors at the back and Lambert and about the players' responsibility there. Just hello, Jules. Hope you're doing all right, well, and family all right as well. Crab walk though. This is one that I've talked about quite a lot, about the fans' reaction. Do we accept the ongoing slide and keep turning up and cheering? 1,300 there yesterday, by the way. They won't be there that many next year. Do we protest? And if so, what do we demand? We have to do something, otherwise the apathy returns, and that's the most destructive path. He's right to talk about season ticket numbers. The calling on Suffolk, we're talking about that. I've talked about that as well.
But we can protest.
How do we react?
We can protest. It depends how you look at Evans. I mean, some people think he's the worst owner in the world, and he shouldn't be here and get out of our club. But he is. The one thing he has done, we are financially stable. The debt is all owed to him, so we're not in a situation like Blackpool were under the Oystons, or Charlton where we're really facing, going against the wall. And also, I think I can't see it. We can protest about Evans leaving, but we need that kind of figure to pump money into the club. And who else is going to be prepared to lose 7-8 million quid a year? Yes, he's made some awful decisions, bad decision after bad decision, but he does still put that money in. And whilst we can sort of protest, for me the protest should be aimed against the manager and not against the owner, because in this league we should be good enough. By all means, if we go back to the Championship and it all goes horribly wrong again, then we can start the Evans out kind of chance. But for this season, for me, it's on Lambert.
But you're not advocating apathy then? You're saying that a protest is reasonable?
Well, yeah, we've got to do something. I mean, we've gone from being overachieving in the 70s and 80s, I guess, the promotion in 2000, the year in the Premier League, and then flirting with the playoffs. And it's just been a slow, steady decline. And apart from when a handful of people did that bedsheet thing against Magilton, have we ever really, gone hell for leather and really voiced our opinions? Roy Keane used to say, didn't he, a protest in Suffolk is about 5 people on the street chanting down with this sort of thing. So is it time to really become vocal about things? I guess we need to do something, but for me it should be aimed against the manager.
Those are the opinions of Browns 08 on Twitter. Blue Monday podcast always advocates respectful debate. And
I'm not saying invade the pitch and throw your season ticket at the dugout. I'm saying,
just to be clear,
we're all adults. We don't want any kind of nothing needs to cross the line. We don't want any kind of violence or personal chanting. It's not a personal situation. All we want is maybe a voice to voice our displeasure. Good.
Lawyers for you. Let's keep it respectful, kids. I'm trying to find more questions here. Jason, again, always someone who gives a compliment at the start of his question. One thing we haven't really talked about. We talked about Evans. We talked about Lambert in or out. Lambert, in the world of Ipswich, isn't going anywhere unless something drastically different happens in the next few weeks. So if you are Lambert, Jason asked, what one thing would you do if walking away is not an option? Which Alex Matthew was advocating yesterday on the phone as well. What does Lambert do to change this?
I've got no idea, because
getting a psychologist.
We said this last time, but he's not been able to change it now for 23 games. I mean, it's clearly a mental issue. The players have proven this season they can do it, because we were top of the league with the games in hands, and was it a 5-6 point gap to third at one point? So the players can do it. It's just, is it pressure? Is it mental? Is it confidence? Maybe look to bring in a psychologist to try and work with some of the younger guys and maybe make them mentally tougher, and bring in, I think I said it last time, bring in Terry Connon to coach the strikers to be able to score more goals.
I think the other thing that Marcus Evans can do in this situation is if we are sticking with Lambert, good or bad, with this 5-year contract, and let's be honest, it's unlikely to be the full 5 years.
No.
Do we need to establish to the players that don't maybe appear to be playing for the manager that he's going nowhere? Because there's maybe this attitude that we got rid of Hurst, we can get rid of Lambert. There's player power debate in football. What we talked about it at Watford and Chelsea. If Mourinho can be forced out, so can Paul Hurst or Paul Lambert. Is there something to be said for the players here getting a bit of a piece of truth that Lambert isn't going anywhere till maybe the summer at the very earliest? He does have a 5-year contract. We're going to honour that.
Yeah.
And the players need to look at themselves.
Well, maybe. I mean, Lambert's contract vastly outweighs any. We haven't got any players tied down to 5-year deals, have we? So maybe it is a bit of a statement to say he's here for the long term. And Scouse could conceivably go this summer. Chambers and Sears, I'm assuming, are out of contract next summer. So if Lambert wants to have a clear out, he could. Maybe it is a bit of a message to the players to say, some of your time here is coming to an end, and he's put his faith in Lambert to sort of maybe do a rebuild and a complete restructuring job.
I just wanted to, this is going to play your stats. So thank you again for the questions, everyone, and apologies if we didn't have time to read them, but always useful in helping us drive the discussion forwards. A little bit of a play your stats, right? You're going to be able to cheat because the notes are right against the camera, so try not to look over there. Okay. But 4 teams whose model that we are supposedly replicating, or the glass half full guys will say that we're advocating, is the get relegated from the Championship to get promoted back stronger, and maybe do a double bubble
rebuild.
4 teams or 3 teams who've definitely done that to the Premier League, and 1 team who have kind of consolidated and look like they're going to be promoted this season. So I want to know how many. I'll give you the name of the team. How many managers and I'll give you the number of seasons that they were in League One for before they bounced back.
Okay.
How many managers they had at that time? Because an interesting debate that's gathering on Twitter. There was quite a few of us having that discussion on Twitter on after the round of games on Tuesday. Is whether the model of being loyal to a manager doesn't work if you're looking for promotion, and if it feels like there's no longer fit. It's not the days of Cobbold and Robson anymore. Loyalty for managers is maybe a little bit of a bygone thing. So should we be looking to change the manager when things go wrong? So Southampton were in League One for 3 seasons.
Right.
How many managers do you think they had?
I have no idea. I don't even know who took them down. I'll guess and say one. Bounced straight back with the same guy in charge, but I couldn't tell you who that was.
So Pardew was in charge, I think, when they went down, and then he got
fired.
He got the Newcastle job.
Yeah, 7-year contract.
And it was Nigel Adkins, and you're right, he was the man who took them up, but they were there for 3 seasons.
Didn't they? Weren't we all surprised? Didn't they sack him and replace him with Pochettino when they were relatively sort of mid-table and comfortable? So
yeah,
quite
horses
ruthless
for
there.
courses,
Yeah, ruthless there from the owners.
Norwich. You remember Norwich's situation, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so 1 season, 2 managers, and they realised quite quickly that Brian Gunn, lovely guy as he is, was not cut out for it.
So
and
again,
who came in?
They were ruthless, weren't they? They went out and got a young up-and-coming manager who had great ideas on football and played for massive clubs, apparently.
In Germany?
I think so.
Yeah.
And, Christ, they never looked back, did they?
Here's the one that I think most of us are worried that we might end up being without the payoff. Sheffield United, 6 seasons in League One, having been relegated. How many managers do they have, Seb, in that time?
What? I've absolutely I'll be honest, I've got no idea. And obviously, Wilder bought them back, and I think he had, was it a year? So did he get promoted in his first year, then again in his second year? So is he in his third year now? I couldn't tell you who took him down, I don't know.
So Sheffield United had 7 managers in their 6 seasons. To be fair, 2 of those was Chris Morgan as acting as caretaker. Okay. So 5 managers, if you want to be brutal about it. So there was a team that was willing to gamble or experiment on a manager until they find a fit.
Yeah.
Leeds is the other one that is the other one that I want to talk about. 3 seasons in League One after we relegated them.
Oh yeah.
How many managers in Leeds' 3 seasons?
Leeds have a lot of managers. I'll say 4 or 5. They seem to go through managers. Was that when Ken Bates put them into admin when they went down, and then he employed Poyet, Wise?
So Poyet was in the Championship, I think. So Wise was in charge when they went down. Then they had Gary Mack, and then Simon Grayson, who we all know about and worry about as well. So 3 managers in 3 seasons for Leeds in their League One spell. I've got stuff.
You could add Forest that list as well, couldn't you?
I don't think Forest went down to League One.
They did. Forest, 3 years they were down there for.
I've got
Megson took them down, didn't he?
Huddersfield, 11 years. This is now not
Bradford,
about the managers. This is the risk, I think, of not acting decisively.
Yeah.
There are 3 or 4 teams who have come down from the Championship, probably thought they were going to bounce straight back, and have stagnated and even gone down to League Two. Huddersfield went down to League Two. They had a season in League Two. Coventry, who are back on it with Mark Robbins now, they had a season in League Two. Portsmouth, Bradford now yo-yo between League One and League Two. Remember, Bradford in the Premier League just relegated the season we went up. Wigan always bounced back. Rotherham look like they're going to bounce back as well. So decisive action, it feels like, needs to be taken if you haven't got a strategy off the field, and it's no time to be figuring out that strategy now, is there? But the news that it's kind of broke just before we started recording, and it's broke by the Mirror, who actually figured out or knew that Lambert was in the wings if Hurst was to get sacked, have said that it said Neil Warnock is waiting in the wings, I think it was. He's lurking there like his
the shadow looming over the dugout.
That Verve video that he did with the on the bench. A lot of people have advocated Warnock coming in. It's definitely a short-term fix because he wants to retire. What do you make of this? I think if you're trying to advocate a 5-year plan, this is not the appointment to make.
It depends what you want. If you want the short-term fix, he probably gets us up, and we might even scrape survival with a target man up front and long ball football. But then you're back to the Mick arguments about the style of play and the kind of players we employ. He's definitely a short-term fix. You probably get 18 months of relative success. But then, a bit like when Mick left, is he just going to leave the blocks for failure after him? Can a new manager come in after that little bounce and do something with the kind of squad he's inherited? So, for me, I think I put it on Twitter last night. For me, rather than Warnock, I'd rather have somebody like Nathan Jones come in. I'd like to see a energetic. I mean, the amount of football you watch these days, be it League One, even League Two, teams these days play with pace. They're attacking, high energy, dynamic. Nothing about Ipswich at the moment is quick. I mean, even off the pitch, cleaning the stands, our contract negotiations, our transfer business. Nothing we do is urgent or quick or dynamic. So for me, I'd like to see somebody like a Nathan Jones come in who's got a very definitive style, high energy, high passion, high pressing. For me, he's the better long-term option than a short fix in Warnock.
Let's do the roundup then.
But what are your thoughts?
I wouldn't go for Warnock. And I don't think... The thing that troubles me is I tweeted yesterday, as I generally do to strike up a little bit of a discussion, was that I didn't think we played particularly bad. Yeah, there was ponderous bits of possession. We see that pretty routinely because Ipswich want to keep the ball now. And let's not forget that when Mick was let go, fans were crying out for us to try and play attractive, passing, attacking football. And that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was seeing enough of that kind of style of play to suggest that it wasn't impossible that we could develop that. It needs to be more attacking and more clinical, certainly. Warnock to me is a regression on that. We would end up, as you say, being quite direct. I mean, we can't bring in any players to help Warnock fashion the team that he would like in League One anyway, because the window's shut. So I just don't see what it does, apart from maybe it gives a kick up the arse to the players, the more senior pros who maybe don't have the respect for Lambert and aren't giving it their all. But as you say, if Warnock said he wants to retire in the summer anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say he gets a 6-month deal or a deal to the end of the season, walks away. We don't get promoted. Where then? It's back to kind of square one again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless it's Warnock in, stabilise the ship, sort out the troublemakers if there are any. Again, we're not making and then Lee O'Neill and Marcus Evans have the same amount of time they had to find Paul Hurst, only during the season when we could make the appointment at the end of the season straight away, have the whole of the summer transfer window and not balls it up like we did with Hurst. So if that is the approach, fair enough. My worry is it'll be a short-term fix with no idea what to do next. It doesn't necessarily sort out the problems we've got. It might fix a few of the little teething issues we have. And no, we're no better off than had we kept Lambert. So there's my two penneth. I'm sure nothing will happen and Lambert will be here.
Oh, I fully expect him to be here in August, yeah. If we finish 8th, 9th, I think he'll be here, I really do.
Let's talk about the league table and where Ipswich find themselves, because it doesn't make good reading. And again, I'm all about the context today. More about context in a second when we talk about Fleetwood. Let's talk about some results, though, some key results yesterday. Burton won, Peterborough won. Peterborough kind of stalling a little bit after everyone was going about how great they are attacking wise. 4 goals.
Well, they were scoring 3-4 goals week in, week out, weren't they?
Yeah, they've now not. They've lost one and drawn one in the last 2. And Burton, we know, aren't brilliant either. So Peterborough now find themselves outside the playoffs. Doncaster 3, Wycombe 1. This Wycombe sort of slow tumble. They're a little bit patchy wins and defeats for Wycombe. They don't draw that many,
but they are
at the moment
2 points off of automatic.
Yeah. So, but Doncaster. The problem for us is that Doncaster are now 1 point behind us. We'll kind of merge the table and the results together. Let's do it that way. And they have a game in hand, as everyone does. Another results to talk about: Oxford 2, Southend 1. No surprises there. Oxford up to 6th. There's 4 straight wins for Oxford. Rotherham 1, MK Dons 1. MK Dons worry me because in my mind I'd always seen us rallying and winning the remainder of our home games or something stupid like that and getting to just on the edge of the playoffs on the last day and then needing to beat MK Dons to guarantee it. And Russell Martin's the manager there now and will screw up against MK Dons. So MK Dons are a little bit of a rally and making themselves safe. Friday night, Portsmouth consolidated their position in the playoffs with a 3-0 victory over Rochdale. They are 3rd on 59 points, 2 points behind Coventry, but having played a game more. Coventry and Sunderland are playing on the day that we record, so we don't know that. Let's assume that ended 1-1. Just for argument's sake,
we'd like a Coventry win, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think so. Are we saying goodbye to Rotherham and Coventry then? Are we?
Or not if you're Lambert. No, it's still doable. Obviously,
it's not impossible.
Yeah. I wouldn't look above 6th.
Yeah, 6th is the target now. Hey, expectations. So Rotherham top by a point, but Coventry with that game in hand. Actually, two games in hand for Cov City, who we play next weekend. Portsmouth 3rd, as I mentioned, 59. Wycombe, who have played a game more than Pompey, on 59 as well. Sunderland, who could go up as high as 2nd. If they beat Coventry, they are on 33 games played, 58 points. Oxford make up the top 6, 57 points, 34 played. Peterborough 1 point behind them in 7th. Fleetwood, who have 2 games in hand, seemingly on most teams in the top 6 or 7, 55, who we play on Tuesday. Ipswich Town, 9th.
Yay.
52 points from our 34 games with Doncaster, as I say, 1 point behind us. Let's not talk any more about that because it doesn't get better for us. Let's talk about Fleetwood on Tuesday. Anything else that you want to mention there? Any other interesting results or outcomes?
No, everyone is just starting to sort of hit form at the right time as we plummet down the table. So
yeah, with the lowest form team of all of the teams that you would expect to be hunting for playoff places. Tuesday, Joey Barton's Fleetwood, Seb. I've got so many bullet points here. I wanted this to kind of be a little bit of light and shade in this pod, but if you're still with us, God bless you. I'm trying to end on a high, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. Fleetwood had a day off this weekend thanks to Tranmere's crap pitch, which we know all about. Our game against them is one of their 2 games in hand on everyone else. Paddy Madden, the top scorer, is the threat for them. We're expecting probably a 4-3-3 with McKay, Madden and Burns, the front 3, but Callum Connolly, who we know all about, can float around between defence and midfield to allow them to play a 3 or a 4. At the back, let's talk about the game in October, Seb. 1-0 victory for Town.
Good,
John Nolan was excellent in that match. Caden Jackson was good, missed a penalty.
We're going to win the league.
We are going to win the league.
Hand thing at full time they did.
Yeah. Yep. Joey Barton would love to do that, I think, on Tuesday if they beat us. 1-0 win for Town at Fleetwood put us top of the league by 4 points with a game in hand. Just to remember the good old days of October 19. The game on Tuesday would leave us on having played one more match than anyone else in the day. We would have played the most games of anyone in the league. Yeah. And just continues to add the pressure of teams with games in hand. Their last 4 matches, I think this is right, because I can't believe this having written it down. Fleetwood have beat Wickham 1-0, have beaten Peterborough 2-1, have beaten Portsmouth 1-0, and drew with Sunderland on Tuesday, as we talked about. They drew with Cov in late January. They are unbeaten since the 11th of January. 4 draws, 5 wins. Seb, how much are you looking forward to the match on Tuesday?
Great, yeah. I can't wait to give my £10 to iFollow to sit there and watch that. I mean, that run of form is absolutely phenomenal. They're basically the exact opposite of us, aren't they? They must not be great against the sides lower down in the table, because with those kind of results, you'd expect them to be certainly around, certainly in the playoffs themselves. So maybe they're not great against the sides beneath them, so we'll take that crumb of comfort.
And their first game to Portman Road, we know some teams, the smaller teams, do get a little bit overawed by Portman Road, maybe. Brilliant. Historically. Yeah, I'm trying to find positives. I'm trying to find them.
Interestingly, we were talking about it in the pub yesterday with Mullet and Senior. Fleetwood don't play on the last day of the season because it's their Bury weekend. So that must be weird if you're a Fleetwood fan and you're
bricking it. If you're 2 points clear of 7th or something,
and you can't do anything at all to influence things. That's quite an interesting point. But I mean, exasperation. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a point, or maybe we even beat them just to prolong this agony even further. I can't see us doing anything against Coventry, but maybe I hope obviously we can do something against them. Otherwise, I've got a horrible feeling if we do lose, let's say we lose 2 or 3-0, I've got a horrible feeling the atmosphere could turn quite nastily against Lambert. Yeah,
defeat to Fleetwood is not implausible. Defeat to Coventry is almost inevitable.
I can't see us beating Coventry. I mean, you'll be delighted, but the rest of us will be absolutely gutted, obviously. Are you wearing your Cov shirt for that one?
Yep, I'll have that on underneath my Ipswich shirt. Yep, bullying in the workplace. But let's play this out then, because people probably, I don't know whether I missed a question on this, but I would be asking this question. 2 defeats in 2 to Fleetwood and Coventry is basically playoffs is impossible as the automatic promotion spots feel now. So what happens then?
He's put the pressure on. He's put the pressure on now because he's come out and said we have to win both, didn't he? Well, that's what he said in his post match. We have to win them both.
And we were going to go for it as well. So, the Hunters, whatever.
Right. Buzzword bingo, soundbite.
So does Evans sack him if he...
He won't. No, he should do, because that'll put us on 4 wins out of 26 by then, 25 by then. But I don't think he will. I fully expect him to be here come August, and yay!
We might win. We might win.
But seeing how would you be that surprised if we beat Fleetwood and then drew with Coventry to put us right back in it, and then who we got after that? It's probably somebody relatively straightforward, and we'll mess that up. We'll probably draw at home to Bolton and draw at home to Southend over Easter and drop right back out of it again. Would you be that surprised if that happened?
No, peak Ipswich. That feels like
banter era continues.
Feels like the point to end it. We have the headline, the bullet point for this podcast is we have only questions, no answers. Something needs to change. Something needs to happen. Maybe Fleetwood. There you go. There's a positive to end our sum up. That is all of it. We'll do some plugs quickly. Thank you, Seb, for your assessment on everything. Thank you, everyone, for your questions, as always, as well. You can find the channel at Blue Monday ITFC on Twitter, if you haven't already. On Instagram, Blue Monday Pod Team, all one word. And YouTube, Blue Monday Podcast. Go searching in there and update your subscriptions if you haven't already. Ben, I think, is back for the midweek show post-Fleetwood. It might be Thursday night rather than Wednesday night, so there might be a little bit of a delay, pod availability and all that kind of stuff, but there will be a midweek pod to discuss whatever happens at Fleetwood, and I will be back for the Ipswich derby, as Seb has already said.
I bet you're so excited.
Coventry, play up Sky Blues, and we'll see where we are in a week's time. A week is a long time in football. How many cliches do we need?
It's not over. They're in a great position still, apparently.
Seb, where can we find you on Twitter?
At BrownS08.
And you can find me at Ipswich. Thank you for listening. I hope you're still here to the end. Seb, I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, do I have to? Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh, come on. That can't be that. Positive. End on a positive.
We're going to beat Fleetwood, draw with Coventry, and get ourselves right back in it.
Spring is coming.